Good morning. Are we good? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. We have a few remarks. My name is Kobe Evans. I am the co-owner of Pure Oasis. I'm here with my partner, Kevin Hart, and we'd just like to share a couple of comments this morning before we introduce the rest of the team behind us. What an exciting day for us here at Pure Oasis as we get ready to open our doors on Monday at 11 o'clock. On behalf of the team, I would like to thank a number of people. First of all, I'd like to thank the Cannabis Control Commission for approving us as the state's first economic empowerment operation. We'd also like to thank Mayor Walsh, the City of Boston, the City Council, and Public Safety for their ongoing support as we have navigated through this process. A very special thanks to our community for welcoming us to Dorchester, Grove Hall. We will do our very best to be good neighbors and good business owners and great community partners. We also want to be a partner to everyone who has supported us through this endeavor. The war on drugs has been harsh on our community in so many ways. I am very pleased we can take an important step forward to bring cannabis out of the shadows and now share the benefits with our customers. As you see, we have a wonderful new home here on Blue Hill Ave. A couple of requests, though. We encourage our customers to take public transportation and seek parking in local municipal parking lots. We want to remind our customers that public consumption of cannabis is illegal. We also want to remind everyone who comes to our store they must have a legal identification, a driver's license or a passport, and you must be 21 years or older. We are asking for everyone's help. And speaking of help, one of our biggest supporters has been Mayor Walsh. Some remarks from the mayor.
Let me just, first of all, congratulate Kobe and Kevin and everyone here at Pure Oasis. Congratulations on this exciting time. And I know that on Monday, I know that there's an unknown of what's going to happen, but I think that your journey to this point and the work you've done have really helped us shape a policy in the city of Boston and work with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on to get here. So we want to congratulate you and your entire team. Well deserved. This is a very big accomplishment, and what this means to not just Kobe and Kevin's families, but this community as well. So congratulations. I want to, everyone behind me, almost everyone's going to speak, but I also want to thank Representative Liz Miranda, who's with us today, who came to the legislature finishing up her first term and understanding the importance of equity in the policies of marijuana here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and also making sure that as the revenue from this comes in, making sure that that money goes back into the community. And I was talking to Liz a little while ago and before this about making sure that the revenue from the sale of this industry, that it has big impact. So I want to thank you, Representative, for your great work as well. In 2016, the people of Massachusetts voted to legalize recreational marijuana. It's a big step with big implications. Right away, we made a commitment in 2016 to regulate this industry in a way that works for our city. We're making sure that it creates economic opportunities for people right here in our neighborhoods. We create a standard of equity for the entire country. This took a lot of work. It took a lot of conversations. It took a lot of answers and questions by the press. We engaged with community groups and legal experts to make sure that the community understood and what was happening and what was going on in their neighborhood. We were determined to do it the right way that can withstand legal challenges, that in ways we identified strong operators, making sure that that's something that's really important to us, in ways that it's sustainable in the long run. I was saying outside, Boston is the first city in the United States of America to formally prioritize diverse applicants. And that's something that is really, really important to all of us. We created in the city of Boston the Office of Emerging Industries to walk people through the process of applying for a license, what the implications are and what they need to be prepared for and what they need to have. We created a cannabis board, which will evaluate and vote on licensed applicants publicly using very clear criteria, something that mirrors in some ways what the state has done to make sure that people who feel that they want to have their voice heard, we wanted to make sure that we have an impartial board that's going to do that. Earlier this week, I appointed 5 new members to the Cannabis Board. They represent the diversity of Boston's neighborhoods. They also have experience in community engagement, public health, and business, and they'll help ensure equity and transparency in this growing industry as we move forward. The way this was done was the right way, by listening to all the stakeholders and bringing people to the table. This was not a top-down approach. This is from the ground up and seeing what we've experienced in the last couple of years here in Boston and how we move through this industry. I'm proud that Boston is now home to the first economic empowerment operator in the state and one of the first in the entire country. As this new industry grows, we'll continue to work very closely with neighbors to address their concerns. Like all businesses, Pure Oasis is going to create new jobs. It's going to bring economic activity into our neighborhoods. It's going to attract customers. We expect there's going to be plenty of interest when the doors open here on Monday, and we're going to be ready for that excitement. We've been working with the community, this neighborhood, to address their concerns or any concerns they might have. We have a plan in place to handle the traffic and the parking. We've already installed pickup and drop-off zones in front of the building with 4 new spaces. I also appreciate and encourage people to take public transportation if you can on Monday, because as anything, and as we experienced in the first cannabis shop opening up in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the lines and the cars that were there, and I think that there's a lot of curiosity as well, not just about buying a product, but also about curiosity about what is this product. Because up to this point for Bostonians, most of this has been an idea that they voted on the ballot in 2016, so they're not really sure what it means. And I think that people are going to be curious. To improve pedestrian safety, we've installed new signs and highlighted crosswalks on Blue Hill Ave. We have a plan to implement temporary parking restrictions on Stanwood Street after the first week, and then we're going to evaluate and make decisions on whether to continue those restrictions. We're going to monitor the situation literally hour by hour just to see as we move forward so that the neighborhood and people aren't inconvenienced and it's not a detriment to the business. Commissioner Gross is going to talk a little more about Boston Police Department's plans, and I want to remind everyone, if you have any questions that are non-emergency related, we ask you to call 311. You don't have to call 911, you call 311, and we'll have people ready to go and ready to answer the questions that you have. And if we don't have an answer for you at that moment, we will get the answer for you as quickly after you make the call. We want to hear feedback from the community so that we can make sure that this is a positive addition to the neighborhood and that anything that we have to work with Pure Oasis on, that we can adjust. I was talking outside already to Kevin, and I said that we have no idea what's going to happen Monday. We're going to take it step by step, and we're not going to panic, and we're not going to overreact, and we're going to work collectively together to make sure any concerns that people have, that we'll address it. Before I hand it off, I want to thank everyone who worked hard to get us where we are today. I want to thank all the community activists. I want to thank the folks that went out and voted in 2016. It's no secret that I was not supportive of this legislation in 2016, but I've watched this industry as we've moved forward here from 2016, and for the most part, people have been very professional about it. I want to thank the community for coming to hours and hours and hours and hundreds of meetings across the city of Boston to have conversations about what it looks like. I want to thank the Cannabis Control Commission for their dedication and their work, because again, a new industry for them, and they're trying to figure out how do we move forward. We had very few examples around the country of who we could work with and who we could watch. And I was talking to Steve outside, who's going to come up in a minute, and I was saying to him that as his commission was exploring this industry, I was talking to mayors of Denver, Colorado, Mayor Hancock, and asking him what he went through and what he experienced and how he's doing it. And when I talked to him about our process here in Boston and Massachusetts, he thought it was a well-thought-through process. And a lot of that is because it's people that went before us. So again, I want to thank all the folks that got us to this point and through this process. And throughout the process, we enjoyed a strong working relationship with so many people. So again, I want to thank you. We're also joined by, before I bring up Steve Hoffman, we're also joined by State Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, who's with us today. So Senator, thank you for being with us today. Now I have the honor to hand it off to Steve Hoffman, Chair of the Cannabis Control Commission. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't know Steve before this, but there's not many more dedicated people in public service that wanted to understand the issues and really have an open and transparent conversation with the City of Boston, with our office, and the leader of our office is Alexis Kachuk, and really helping us through the way and really helping us both grow and understand this industry. So without further ado, Steve Hoffman.
Morning. First of all, thank you, Mayor, for those very kind remarks. You know, it's a tremendous pleasure to be here today. Our commission has been in business for about a year, 2.5 years, and we've been working hard towards this day for that entire time, and so it's just wonderful to see it come to fruition. I want to start, first of all, obviously, to congratulate Kevin and Kobe. You guys have done an amazing job. You've been great to work with, and I wish you the best of luck. I want to thank the mayor, the city of Boston, Alexis, President Cheney, excuse me. You guys have created an example for not just the rest of the state to follow, but for the rest of the country to follow in terms of your commitment to roll this industry out right, to make it work for your city and for your citizens, and with your commitment to equity. I think you have created a tremendous example that I hope the rest of the state and the rest of the country will follow. So thank you for that. From the beginning, the Commission has been totally committed to make this industry work in the way it was intended to in Question 4 in 2016, and then the legislation that was ultimately passed in 2017. And a major part of that is making it work for people that were harmed by the prohibition on marijuana. So this is an incredibly important first step in that, but it's been a team effort. This can't happen just alone by the Commission. It's got to be the Commission, the legislature. I want to thank Senator Chang Diaz for her support. It's got to be cities and towns. It's got to be industry. And I just want to talk about each of those components. I'm here speaking for the Cannabis Control Commission as an individual, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the other commissioners who all played a major role in this. Commissioner McBride, working closely with law enforcement and other constituencies, helped push through the idea of home delivery, which is a license category that I believe will have significant equity impact and will be available shortly. Commissioner Flanagan, for those of you that watch our public meetings and everything we do is in public, grills every applicant about their commitment to equity and diversity and ensures that they're part of the solution. Commissioner Doyle created expedited review for social equity applicants, for women, for veterans, for minorities, and Commissioner Title was really the spiritual leader behind the creation of the first social equity program in the nation. So my thanks to all of them. I want to thank the legislature, as I mentioned, not just for the legislation that embedded the commitment to equity, but for the support every time we've asked them for help with respect to host community agreements. We saw the legislation that got through committee, what was it, yesterday or the day before? Yes. Yeah, so one of the things that has been very important to me and the other commissioners from day one is not just creating priority and incentives for people that have been harmed by marijuana prohibition, but helping them get financing, which is incredibly difficult in this industry that is still federally illegal. And the Joint Committee on Cannabis Policy, chaired by Senator Chang Diaz, actually advanced legislation to create such a fund, and I'm deeply, deeply grateful for your support on that. Cities and towns, again, I just want to reemphasize how important it is what Boston is doing, because part of the solution has to be every city and town in the state being committed to equity, and the fact that Boston has created a program and helped the first equity applicant get through the process is just incredibly important as an example. And then industry has a role to play. We ask every applicant to talk about what they're going to do to promote diversity, to promote equity, and now you guys are part of the solution, not just the first people to get through the process, but part of the solution. And so I'm looking forward to collaborating with you as we go forward. We now have 20 social equity and economic empowerment licenses that have been granted in the state. We have 2 that are actually operational as of Monday, but we have a long ways to go. And I'm looking forward to continued collaboration with the city of Boston, with the legislature, with private industry, to get to where we all want to get to, and I and the rest of the Commission are totally committed to get there. So thank you very much for your support, and again, congratulations and best of luck.
Now I'm going to ask Commissioner Gross to come on up and say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Congratulations. Congratulations and welcome. I'm glad I had the opportunity to speak today, because I have been speaking to people in the community, right? And there's some things that need to be cleared up. With the Boston Police Department, it is not going to be an us versus them just because of the mere moniker of marijuana. The citizens of the Commonwealth voted for the legalization of marijuana, and we will abide by their vote. And we, as the Boston Police Department, are deeply rooted in community policing. We support all businesses and what they bring to the table. That's why I'm congratulating you for bringing a business to the Grove Hall area, Dorchester, Roxbury area, that will benefit the community and the partnerships in community policing. Because here it is, folks. We're about making improvements, continuing to increase the level of opportunities in our city for everybody. Thank you, Mayor. And to make sure that while that's being done, that we work in partnerships. It's very important that we remember that word partnership and commitment. Just as all businesses in this community and throughout the city of Boston, there are people with criminal intent on their mind that want to take advantage of people that work hard every day to support their businesses and community. The partnership in this is we're going to work together. You've all seen me before the cameras before. We work together to ensure the rights of this community and the businesses of this community. And those again, with criminal intent on their mind, we're going to work together to make sure that you don't jeopardize our safety and our great quality of life. So I look forward to working in partnership with you. You can see the tremendous support you have here, state, local, federal. And hey, welcome to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. We're also joined by State Representative China Tyler, who's joined us today. Thank you, Representative Tyler. I want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't just give a couple of shout outs for our office. I mentioned, Alexis, the Office of Neighborhood Services and Civic Engagement, Jerome Smith, his office being involved, Representative John Barrows, Chief of Economic Development, and John's office being involved, obviously, and Special Services, the Boston Police Department, the Boston Fire Department, all the different departments that are involved in making Monday a reality and a possibility. So again, thank you, and we'll open up any questions if you have any question for anyone here.
Mr. Barrett, could you describe, you said you were opposed to question 4. Can you just kind of walk us through what's gone through your mind as you're now embracing this industry?
Well, it's been interesting. You know, obviously, I'm going to support the will of the voter. And as we went through this thing, I thought it's really important for us in the city of Boston to support the intent of the law. And a lot of this, when this industry went through, it was about people being incarcerated wrongly. It was about going after people in communities that might not have other means. And I thought about, is there an opportunity now for us here, and we're seeing it here at Pure Oasis, to open up an industry or open up a new industry in Massachusetts and in Boston in particular, and how can we make sure that the disadvantaged neighborhoods and people that have not had those opportunities have opportunities to get employment, earn money, move forward, be successful, and looking at this as a real economic opportunity in the city of Boston, closing the income gaps, closing those gaps that have been there forever, looking at public safety through a different lens. I think it's really had us take a kind of a whole different holistic view of the industry and what the impacts, the positive impacts can be. And the revenue from this industry, you know, in the city of Boston, we're going to get additional revenue from this, and thinking about where do we dedicate that revenue. And at the state level, you know, maybe there's a possibility to do we take some of this money and earmark it towards programs that are important across the Commonwealth. Maybe we look at, you know, universal child care. Maybe we look at different areas. So this is all new excitement. That's things that the legislature and the government will have to figure out. But there's really a lot of possibilities here on this. And then having 2 entrepreneurs that clearly are nervous today, but it's exciting for them. That otherwise they might not think, what would be my business if this didn't come? And so there's really a lot of great opportunities out of this.
Can you talk about the timelines a little bit? I know the first recreational marijuana dispensary opened up 16 months ago or so.
Yeah.
In Leicester. And obviously this is the first one in the city of Boston. What took so long?
Well, I mean, I'll have the chair come up here in a second. I don't think it took long. I think that this industry is brand new. And as I said earlier, you know, there wasn't a lot of boilerplate language around the country that we could look at to see what they did. And I think that I would rather be consistent and steady and have a very good outcome than rush and start approving facilities all over the city of Boston and probably all over the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I don't think it took a long time. I think that there's a lot that was learned. And I think that, legislature's still working on legislation on the industry. We appointed the Cannabis Control Board last week. It's still an evolving industry here, and it's still going to change and move. I think that, one of the things, I'll tell you, we go to a neighborhood meeting quite often, and, the people in the room, 90% of the people in the room, 80% of the people in the room, they're against having a marijuana facility in their neighborhood. However, when you come back and say 75% of the community voted for it, it's an educational thing too. So I don't think it took a long time. I think it's about making sure that we're getting this process right. The worst thing that would happen is we start approving marijuana facilities all over Boston and Massachusetts and realize, oh, we really should have thought of this or we should have thought of that. And today's a little different too. What we're doing here is a little different because we're talking about equity. This is at the heart of what most people voted. I think that what I heard, why people voted for the legislation, is at the heart of what we're doing here today. We're opening an office that's an equity candidate, and that's something that's really important.
Are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to ask?
No, give it to him. Ask him.
A lot of equity intolerant applicants have really raised concerns about, while they can maybe get through the process through the CCC and on the state level, they're having issues in municipalities.
Yes.
And there are tremendous barriers to entry.
Yes.
Getting a facility open in municipalities. I know you issued a letter to try to break down some of those barriers. What's being done to make sure that more folks get over the finish line?
Well, I think that that's part of the solution. So we have asked the legislature, first of all, to give us enforcement authority over host community agreements, which has been a barrier. A lot of the cities and towns, I'm not going to name names, but cities and towns are asking for substantial amounts of money above and beyond the mitigation fees, and that obviously is a barrier to smaller entrants. So that's something we hope the legislation will advance and give us the opportunity to address. We also asked the legislature to make cities and towns accountable for equity. I again applaud Boston and Cambridge, Somerville, Holyoke, other cities around that have introduced equity into their application process. I would love to see it in the legislation that every city and town has a requirement to advance equity as part of the build-up of this industry. Because again, it's got to be the state, it's got to be the municipalities, it's got to be the private industry all coming together to make this work. So I'm optimistic. I'm grateful to the legislature for their support on this. We are making progress. We have 21 licenses for social equity and economic empowerment applicants, which is nowhere near where we need to be, but it's progress. So I'm very optimistic, but we have more work to do, and it's going to be, as I said, a collaboration between cities and towns, the state, and private industry to get where we need to. But we're going to get there.
Question for Commissioner Ross.
Yes, sir.
The illicit market is still going on
Yes.
in Boston. Boston police will be taking any extra steps to crack down on the illicit cannabis market.
We're going to continue to work with the community, and I'll thank you for that question, because despite what was thought of the community in the past, the community does help out. They do step up to help us make arrests and affect the quality of life. So yes, we will continue our efforts in the illegal drug activities that affect this community, because we all know what comes along with that. There's a lot of violence, right? It does no good for our community or its quality of life. So we're gonna continue to put all our efforts forward to combat any illegal narcotics in this city. Absolutely, right? Because, okay, there's someone, personal use, fine. But what about it when it's individually packaged? What about if you have a weed house, right? And major distribution of same, but not legal? That does affect the quality of life. So let's not get it misconstrued that we're talking about folks having a joint or two. We're talking about major operations that have historically resulted in violence and that have been detrimental to the neighborhood. These gentlemen here, I'm sure, are going to contribute to programs and initiatives that benefit the community, both economically, providing jobs, but programs and initiatives that support our youth in the community and the seniors. I can't say a weed house has ever done that. So again, we will continue to uphold the law. Thank you.
Can I just real quickly follow up on that? Also, I think one of the things about this industry that is a benefit is that when people walk in here and they buy the product, they know what the product is and they know what's in the product. And when you're buying on the street, there's a lot of concerns that we have with marijuana being laced with fentanyl and other things in there. And I think that it is a public health / public safety issue as well. So I think that, again, part of that is going to be something that I think as we think about this process walking out in the street, to your question, we're not going to be arresting a person who has a joint on their hand in the street. That's not the case. But if we are going to be making sure that people who are dealing drugs on the streets of Boston that are illegal, we're going to take action because it's also about protecting the community. As you know, coming in here today, everyone had to make sure a license, and you went through some scrutiny getting here. That's what's going to happen on Monday. So we're going to be making sure that the folks that are buying the product that's in here, they're 21 years and older. The folks on the street are 15, 13, 12-year-old kids. Again, we're going to make sure we do everything we to protect the young people of our city. And having this industry in Boston, there is a very positive aspect to the health and safety, and again, the health aspect of it. Sorry.
I know you mentioned you are urging people to take public transportation, use municipal lots, you establish drop-off. But what about people who come in with cars?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy Monday. Okay, let's be honest. Let me prepare you for Monday. All right, because you're going to be outside. There's going to be lines, and there's going to be cars, there's going to be traffic, and there's going to be chaos, and there's going to be confusion. And what we're going to do is our best job we can possible to make sure that we limit that. And the people that live in that are planning to come here from Quincy or from Somerville or where there's not where they don't have a shop open right now, who want to come to Boston and not drive all the way out to, I think it's Bellingham, wherever it is, we're asking you to try and take public transportation. We're also going to ask people to be patient, because this neighborhood is a neighborhood of people, the people that live in the houses across the street. Be respectful of the residents. Be respectful of their community. Be respectful of this shop, who put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and investments to make this open. And so we are going to have probably issues on Monday in the sense of, we will have long lines, and there'll be else I'll watch on TV that night. But what we're doing is it's the first day, and we have a good plan in place right now, working with the Boston Police Department, working with Pure Oasis. And as I said, if we have to literally adjust that process as the day goes on, we will. And so expect there's going to be lines and chaos. But we're going to be working with them. I mean, it's something that it's not just this area. I think we have 7 or 8 applications at the state waiting to come down. We have another, I think, 10 or 15 going through the process. So over the course of time, there'll be more shops cannabis shops in Boston. I still think that there'll be a lot of interest in those shops. And I think this industry is new, and I think this industry for a period of time, however long that is, a year, 2 or 3 years, is going to be successful. But it's just a matter of, like any business opening here, if this was a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks that opened in the neighborhood and it's new and it's exciting, there would be some people here watching it. So we're going to work very closely with the neighborhood. Our neighborhood liaison is in his room today. She has been in constant contact with the abutters. We're in constant contact with the neighbors. We're going to stay in constant contact with them. Pure Oasis has been in constant contact with the abutters and talking to their neighbors, because they want to be good neighbors to people. So it is going to be, I expect there'll be some growing pains, but I'm hoping that those growing pains are quick.
Did you learn some lessons from Brookline just over the city line?
I think we've learned lessons from every place, watching what's happened and as we move forward. And I think that, the interesting thing about this is the first shop in the city of Boston. And I think that makes a little bit of a difference that when it comes to, kind of a little more high profile. It's going to be on the news tonight and all weekend long, and Monday's going to be on the news all day long. So I think the fact that it's in Boston is going to be a little different kind of attention around it.
I really want you all to address some of this line of questioning here about your conversations in the community. But I feel like this is your business, you're in the community, and y'all have strong roots in this community. What conversations have you been having with the neighbors and conversations?
So Kevin and I have had numerous community meetings, and one of the interesting things about our meetings is that not everyone doesn't like a cannabis shop in the neighborhood for the same reason. And the vast majority of the reasons have to do more with potential parking issues, additional people in the community, and mostly just fear of the unknown. We have yet to run into many people that have an abject opposition to what we're doing just based on this cannabis. Most people just are fearful of what they've heard in the news dealing with parking. But, to some degree, I think that the average Dunkin' Donuts probably does more traffic in the neighborhood than we potentially will be doing. So it's one of our neighbors even said, listen, I am a patient. I use cannabis. I just don't want to have to fight for parking. You know, so we don't generally see someone that says we don't like the product or what you're doing. It's more or less the fear of what the potential impact on the neighborhood is.
And I think just to follow up on Kobe's answer, we've actually taken some deliberate actions to really engage the community. So the process required us to have one community meeting. We actually had two, just to really hear the community's concerns about this new venture. And what we've done most recently is actually outreach to the community through people on our team to talk to the neighbors, to let them know that we're coming and to address any concerns that they may have also.
Even the space that you're in, this space is dedicated just to get people off the sidewalk and into our buildings so that we aren't causing any impeding traffic on the sidewalk. So we, again, as Kevin indicated, we've been very deliberate in being good community partners, you know, because it's an ongoing conversation, it's collaborative, and at the end of the day, we want to be supportive of this neighborhood because we have deep roots here.
Are you guys nervous about Monday?
Absolutely
Very.
not. Absolutely not.
Very.
Yes, very nervous.
Anything?
One last question.
Go for it. Anyone? Okay.
Did you guys ask you guys to do anything other than take public transportation to kind of mitigate?
Ride share, blue
Ride sharing.
bikes, walk, anything, you know. I mean, because again, as we've already indicated, you know, we want to have a long relationship with Dorchester and Grove Hall, and with that, we operate this business as if we live in this neighborhood, so we want to embody the concerns of the neighbors. So if there's anything, we've traveled across the country looking at what people do at different states for their dispensaries versus discounts for ride-sharing services or whatever the case. Over time, the traffic will subside, and what you will find is it's more neighborhood people coming here who aren't necessarily driving from, you know, another part of the city. So over time, the traffic will subside, but we are encouraging people to use municipal lots, use public transportation, ride-sharing services, just to reduce the impact on the neighborhood.
And our commitment to the community is to be good neighbors. And so in doing that, we've asked people to do all the things that Kobe just talked about, ride sharing, public transportation. But on the flip side of that, for us, we want the experience to be great for our customers. And so if people are driving or not told in advance that parking may be an issue, then that will that could disintegrate the experience. So we share this commitment to the community and also for our own business purposes.
Just so you know, their nervousness today, and my smile, open the business, is here. Monday around 12 o'clock, when they see a line down the street, their smile comes and my nervousness.
True story. Okay, guys, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.